communists took over in 47, I really hated the whole system. Last minute, decided to send a team to the 48 Olympics in Switzerland. So I got a passport to leave the country. That's how I managed to get out. I planned to come to the US for graduate study in engineering. I picked MIT, Harvard, Stanford, and Columbia. I had $17 and I like a camera. So I was in no position to go to any of those schools.
I was 20 when I got here. I was very lucky because I stayed at the International House and we wanted to become Americans. It was our choice, which was very fortunate because to some people they have no choice.
The part I'm especially proud of is the engineering part. I really did great stuff. I had concepts, I wouldn't say changed the world, but I had major impacts on the world economy.
My husband was, I think, a highly intellectual and intelligent person. He also had the mind of an engineer. And what people now even tell me that what a pleasure it was always to sit next to him because they always felt that they learned something.
Being in a free country meant really a lot to me. It was also a country of opportunity.
And we were immigrants, so that's why immigrants are important to us.
We are the descendants of 40 million people who left other countries, other familiar scenes, to come here to the United States to build a new life.
It was at a time when we were quite successful financially, and I felt that we should give back to this country. I knew one thing, my husband was a very low-profile person, and he certainly didn't want to have his name on buildings. I remember at one time he said, if only somebody would have given me $10,000, my life would have been so very different while I was a student. And I think maybe this was part of the thing which inspired him.
My idea was to do something that demonstrates that immigrants or new Americans make a real contribution to this country.
The idea behind the fellowship was they were great believers in the power of education, and they were also great believers in America being a land of opportunity for immigrants.
The fellowship in a lot of ways reflected my father's experience of coming to this country and looking at the country in total, can see the value of the contribution that immigrants have always made. I remember our first interview was Vivek Murthy, and I think he was 20 years old at the time. I'd really never met anyone quite like Vivek before, and he was just so wildly impressive that I said, okay, this is really going to be interesting.
What they have in common, that they're all immigrants, they all need each other, they're all anxious to learn, they all want to become special people in this country. And there seems to be a camaraderie.
The core experience of the Soros Fellowship is being part of a community of people who are committed to making this country work better, but also who understand where I come from.
The Soros Fellowship and fellowships like it are necessary because some of us don't have access to certain institutions and certain possibilities given lack of information, lack of resources.
To be part of the Paul Daisy Soros community of fellows would allow me to be inspired by the accomplishments of other like-minded individuals.
The fellowship, I think, is first and foremost the community. Think about all the funny quirks about being an immigrant or a child of immigrants. And you're now in a group of folks who have had versions of that, but in their own way.
The Paul and Daisy Soros Fellowship is a lot about the fellows' stories, as opposed to fragmenting themselves and trying to get a fellowship to cover, one like small chunk of their life that is their research or their work. I think the Paul and Daisy Soros Fellowship is about their whole story.
Unless you are a new American, you don't quite understand of what it means or what the difficulties are. And I think it's easier to have somebody understand that who went through it themselves. 20 years ago, my husband Paul and I started a fellowship for immigrants and children of immigrants. We have by now, I'm proud to say, over 550 fellows, many of them graduating from Harvard, Stanford, and Yale medical schools, and other very well-known institutions. Actually, one of our former fellows is the present Surgeon General of the United States. I think what I'm most proud of, that we make a difference in young people's lives. We can look back on fellows whom we had, let's say, the first 10 years, and we can see their fantastic success. One of these young gentlemen whom I was chatting with, and I said, well, what's the difference between the roads and ours? And he turned to me and he said, yours has a heart. You are not just giving money, but you give from yourselves. So I now call our fellowship a fellowship with a heart, and that means a lot to me.
For more than 200 years, our tradition of welcoming immigrants from around the world has given us a tremendous advantage over other nations. It's kept us youthful, dynamic, and entrepreneurial. It has shaped our character as a people with limitless possibilities.
My hopes are that everybody will know what the Paul and Daisy Fellowship is, and 50 years from now it's going to be, everybody will talk about these incredible people who at a very young age started off at that fellowship, and now they are incredibly outstanding citizens. We're going to have lots and lots of Soros Fellows be in charge of all different aspects of an American life.